Welcome to episode 4 of No Boundaries. I'm your host, Dana Boyle. This week, we're going out on the West Coast and we've got fifth year midfielder Michaela Watson for Stanford Women's Lacrosse. Let's get started.
You are back for a fifth year. You're obviously a leader on this team on and off the field, and you're pursuing your master's in sustainability. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
So,
yep.
What was your reasoning for coming back to Stanford for a fifth year?
Yeah, I think like a lot of seniors last year, 2020 ending the season so abruptly and with such little closure was something that I think my whole class here was struggling with. I think we were just hitting our stride. We were figuring each other out. We were just on the cusp. We had just had one great game that we were excited to continue off of. And so once we had the opportunity to come back, my class, 5 of us decided to come back, and it was honestly a really easy decision to make.
So you are originally from PA, so for the East Coast. So what was the West Coast attraction?
Yeah, I think first of all, like I went to a K through 12 school, was in the same area for so long that it was actually a really awesome opportunity to get to try something new. And so when I visited Stanford, first of all, I mean, we joke about it, but like the weather is it's really helpful when it's sunny all the time and like you can be outside more. That was something that was huge. And then just like at Stanford, I've said this before, but just the people, just immediately, I felt like this was the place for me.
What is it about sustainability specifically for your master's program? Like what is so important to you about that? And what do you hope to use that with after college?
Yeah. So it was really funny. I did an internship at Nike my junior summer, and I hadn't known anything about sustainability really outside of just like the environment, recycling kind of vaguely. And so I did a project for them where they just asked me to look into more sustainability aspects that they could be bringing to this department's apparel. And I learned so much about like different ways that you can make material choices, make things recyclable. Like they have like all of these recycled threads that they use. And it kind of opened up a whole new way of looking at, for me, product design. I did product design as my undergrad, and like understanding how you can design things with sustainability and with the environment in mind. And so that really opened that world up to me. It's something that I feel like once you're exposed to it and you understand how important it is, like for the future of just all of us on the planet, it's something that's like, it's something you can't shake, I would say.
I think that something like that field really attracted you. I was reading an article about you from the ACE service program that you took when you had a chance to travel abroad to China. I was reading through that and it looked like and sounded like such an awesome experience. Do you think that kind of sparked some of that thinking to go into that fifth year program?
Yeah, I think that program for sure. And then also just being on the West Coast, I think in general, there's a lot more of a sustainability mindset, I would say. And just also the outdoors, like you said, I'm from Pennsylvania, from right outside of Philadelphia and then Philadelphia. And the appreciation for the environment is something that has really grown since I've been able to travel more to China, and also we did like a team tour and got to go to New Zealand as well. And the more that I've seen, it's just so important to preserve, but also it's important to see how our decisions that we make can actually create and contribute to the bigger issue. Because sometimes it feels like, oh, it's this huge thing that no one can touch and no one can control, and therefore it goes on the back burner. So I think getting to see more of the world and getting to see more different cultures and how they handle different sustainability issues, I think definitely all led up to this.
I think that's also can be applied to so many different life scenarios too. So that's really interesting. So specifically about your travel abroad in China, what was the one thing that surprised you the most about your trip?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that definitely surprised me was how little the language barrier actually hindered us. We had 2 different student athletes who did speak Mandarin, which helped, but we would run basically sports camps in the mornings. And it was really just such a unifying and awesome feeling to be playing like games that I grew up loving, like kickball or knockout with the kids, and not be able to speak a language, but just it it didn't change anything. It just felt like just hanging out and connecting and bonding. And then the other thing was just the opportunity to connect with student athletes from Duke, and also just other student athletes at Stanford that I never would have gotten to know as well as I did. So it was honestly like, it was an abroad trip, but I feel like the connections that I made with the kids there, and then also with other students, was the best part.
Yeah, I would agree. So switching gears a little bit. So undergraduate, your major was product design, correct?
Yes.
And I followed your Instagram account, Clay_Figures729, which is really cool. So everybody needs to go follow that because it's awesome. So what got you into that? Because that is so unique and really creative. How did you get started with that?
Yeah. So long time ago, it started really with my grandmother, and whenever she'd come to visit us when we were really young, my sister and I, she would bring Sculpey clay, and we would like make dollhouse food with her when we were really little. And so over the years, like just we have this accumulation of Sculpey clay in our house. And I guess end of middle school, like, in the summers, just practices with club teams all the time in the afternoon. So the mornings were really free and I didn't really have anything to do. And I was just kind of sitting around and saw all the Sculpey clay we had just sitting with me. And so I can't remember exactly what happened, but at some point, like I had seen online that there were people doing like mini sculpting. And so I kind of just picked it up, started getting into it. And then coming to Stanford in college, I knew that I loved science and I loved art. And so I thought, product design, engineering, that seems like it might be a good combination of the two, which it was. But also it had this whole other aspect of human-centered design and like understanding users, understanding people's needs, pain points, and then, using empathy really to solve problems. And that was a whole thing that I wasn't expecting from it and just have loved that. And that's kind of taken over as one of my main passions since being exposed to that stuff.
That's really cool. Like what a full circle kind of moment. Like you think it's just these small little clay figures and then it's so much more. Is it tedious to do those? Because I saw your little Chick-fil-A picture. That has to be really hard. Like how do you get that like fine detail with such a small figure?
Yeah. It's funny because it is very detailed and it's honestly like kind of fun. It's almost like a puzzle in itself because it's like you have a picture of something that you're trying to make and figuring out like what combination of colors or what tool, like, and by tools that I use, it's like toothpicks and toothbrushes and like just like really anything. It's fun because I thought about it more recently and it's more just like, yeah, like how can I make this at this scale like look realistic?
Off of that question, what's your favorite thing about Stanford?
Yeah, I think my favorite thing about Stanford is the people. And from the professors, like I've been blown away, like how much they actually care and about us as individuals and as people. Like one of my professors even had our class over for dinner to her house and was just like talking with us. And it's a new perspective on how to teach, but also how to lead that I was really not expecting. My teammates, I love my teammates so much. They push, it's funny because I feel like I've been pushed to my physical limits, whether it's in a workout or and skill limits, like and being inspired by different people's stick works or whatever it is to get better in that way, shooting. And then just friends outside of the team too. It's awesome to see people starting businesses and, pursuing whatever passions that they have that have nothing to do with sports. I feel like that's been the biggest thing about my experience.
Yeah. So who is the unsung hero of your team?
Yes, I actually have two for this one. I'd say on attack would be Galen Liu. She is really consistent, scoring and assisting for us. And she also takes a lot of hits in games and like puts away her 8 meters consistently. So I would, and practice, she brings like such a positive, like funny vibe to practice every day. So Galen on attack, and then on defense, I would say Kira Pelton. She's one of the strongest and GS 1v1 defenders that we have. And there's not necessarily a stat for that. But she holds us down on defense, and she's been doing that for years. So those two.
That's awesome. Yeah, defense does not get enough love because, like you said, besides ground balls or cause turnovers, that's it. But the good idea to give the defense some love. So, an opponent, I'm interested, teams that you've played against, do you have a team or do you have a player that's really impressed you?
I would say Arizona State this year. They are still, I feel like, a relatively new program, but they've really grown a lot in the past, especially 2 years under the new coach, and even came out with some upset wins this season. So I think that they're definitely on the rise.
I've really enjoyed watching you play throughout your career. You're a baller, so
happy to be here, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk.
Yeah, you're welcome.